That was the open beta trailer for World War III, the game that came out on, I believe it was the 26th. And since then, lots of interesting things have been happening with this game. Um, Outside of the gameplay, outside of the optimization, outside of a lot of other things. As a disclaimer in this review, I am going to speak of the initial server problems that the open beta had that aren't as prevalent or nearly as prevalent as they were on release of the open beta. It's gotten a lot better. I personally haven't had that many problems getting in and playing games, but I know there are people who still do. So I'm going to try not to hold that against my review of the game, but I will speak of it in an effort to be as objective as possible and not to leave out anything. There is a possibility that you may experience server problems when downloading and trying to play this open beta, and I want to make sure that the people that watch my review fully understand that, but I also want to make sure that the people who watch my review fully understand my stance on the game, how I feel about the game, and whether or not they should jump in to World War III and give it a go. World War III is a game that was originally conceived years ago, around 2018, if I'm not mistaken. I remember seeing this game. I think at the time I might have been around 15 years old, maybe 14. I think I was 15 though, and thinking, this was before I had a computer. This is before I was playing games on PC, thinking, I would really like to play that. This is around the time when Battlefield 1 is out and we're getting, lots of news about Battlefield 5 being a World War II game, and games like Battlefield 4 kind of like dying down a little bit. Battlefield 4 has never died, but it's an older game, and me as someone who's always loved Battlefield wanted an alternative, as well as pretty much the entirety of the Battlefield community. We've always wanted Battlefield 4 again. We thought we might get it with 2042, and that's obviously not what happened. World War III, when it originally was conceived, looked something like this. This is GameSpot gameplay. Credit them. I will credit them for the gameplay, and I will link the original video to the full, what is it? I think it's around 30 minutes worth of gameplay of the original game that we were supposed to get in 2018, which we originally did. What happened with that game is that server issues initially plagued the game to the point where people couldn't play it, and it eventually did die. But people in 2018 enjoyed it then, and it built kind of like a cult following back then that eventually has brought us to now, which is a massive re-release, a free-to-play re-release, for that matter, of this game that has been completely overhauled, and people have seemed to enjoy it. But we have seen some of those same problems that plagued the original version of the game now in the release of the open beta.
Now, World War 3 has been in open beta for nearly 2 days now. Now, while most of the gameplay is positive and there's been quite a lot of good feedback with the customization, the gunplay, there have been quite a few major problems that have stopped many people playing the game and will probably end up maybe at some point even killing the game, considering these problems have been going on for, I would say, almost 4 years since when this game first launched.
Guys, World War 3 has some serious problems. As you've all seen in the past week since the open beta released, World War 3 had a ton of connection problems. And honestly, I kind of expected this because the game has always had server issues, but what I didn't expect is for them to be this bad.
I am a tad bit worried that World War III might have just possibly sabotaged itself. And more than likely, the developers did more bad than good with allowing the servers to be active throughout this whole weekend. Now, if you even tried to download this game and give it a shot at least once, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the game itself. I'm not talking about the optimization. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking strictly about the servers of this game.
I've been playing and covering this game since 2018/2019, as I know a lot of you that are currently watching have as well. The bottom line, gamers like you and I are tired of supporting games for years just to have them end up in continuous development cycles after launch.
So server problems have plagued the community for quite some time, but as of right now, honestly, they're not that big of a deal for me. As I stated earlier in the video, I haven't had that many problems, and I don't think that many people are still having serious issues. But with all that being said, now I get to talk about the game, right? The game, the thing that we are all here to find out about. How is the game? I want to lead with one of the best parts about World War III, and honestly, it's true, one of its true redeeming qualities, and there's a couple of those, and this is the first one that I want to talk about. One of the best components of World War III is customization and personalization of your weapons, your loadouts, the way your character looks, speaks, the flags that they wear, pretty much everything. Customization is absolutely amazing in this game. On screen, there should be some customization going on. I'm going to put up multiple versions of maybe an MSBS, an AK-15, right? I want to essentially showcase how good the customization is in this game. If you're a fan of Modern Warfare's Gunsmith, or pretty much just Call of Duty's Gunsmith in general, this game kind of had that pre-Call of Duty. If you're a fan of 2042's ability to essentially swap attachments on the go, there is a backpack system in this game that emulates that very well. Does it better, to be completely honest, because the attachments are better. They actually work. They do a lot more for your weapon. You can build one weapon in multiple different ways. On screen, there should be like an assault rifle version of maybe an MSBS, a squad weapon version, a shorter carbine or SMG configuration for close range combat. There's drum mags. There's so many different ways to customize your weapons in this game. I mean, it is insane. The weapons have a ton of levels to level through. There's plenty of content here to keep you busy for quite a while. I hear a lot of people say, you know, this can hold you over until MW2. This could scratch an itch. This game could very much scratch an itch that MW2 does not. I think that this game does certain things better than Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. After playing that beta versus playing what we have here with World War 3, there are things in World War 3, especially in my opinion, the weapon customization and the progression, that is just slightly better. It's very good in this game. Customization pretty much across the board. There's plenty of stuff to do with the customization. Like, just amazing. 10 out of 10. Clearly a lot of work went into the customization in this game. A lot of thought went into the customization in this game. A lot of these weapon attachments don't just look completely different, but they do completely different things. You can make your weapons feel completely different. One weapon can feel multiple different kinds of ways. It's very impressive, actually. It seems that, you know, this is what Battlefield fans have wanted for a really long time in Battlefield. That's why we were all so excited when we could swap attachments on the go and things like that. But 2042 didn't really do weapon attachments very well, and it still doesn't really do weapon attachments very well. They've done rebalances for that game and everything to make some of the weapon attachments more useful, but at the end of the day, they're just not necessarily that great. The game leaves a lot to desire, and World War III kind of gives you what you want from a lot of these other FPSs, honestly. The next thing I'm going to talk about in regards to World War III is maps. So, criticism I have heard of this game that is kind of tough to deny is that there is a lack of maps in the game. That's true. There's only 5, which is Warsaw, Berlin, Smolensk, Moscow, and Polyarny, right? So there's 5 maps in the game, but in defense of the developers, yes, there's only 5 maps in the game. It's kind of, sort of, I personally have never gotten burned out on the maps, but I know there are people that have played the game a lot more than me, and I could see people getting burned out on 5 maps or 4 maps for a long time. Smolensk is pretty new. It was in the game originally in 2018, but they took it out for technical reasons, and they fixed it up. They redesigned it. They optimized it better, and then they added it back. So now there's 5 maps in the game for us to play. All of them are stellar. All of the map designs in this game are amazing. All of them are great. There's just only 5 of them. So the developers are great at designing maps. All of them are fun to play on, but there is only 5 of them. So, you know, you may or may not get burnt out on those 5 maps. It depends on how much you like them. Personally, I love Polyarny and Smolensk and Berlin, and you know, Moscow not as much, and Warsaw not as much. I think that those are the 2 weaker maps, but Smolensk, Berlin, and Polyarny are stellar. Like 10 out of 10 maps, super fun, and I don't necessarily see you getting super burnt out on them unless you're playing the game an extreme amount. World War III has a super unique feeling when it comes to gunplay that pretty much the entire community is in agreement that they absolutely love. It kind of reminds me sort of Rainbow Six with the combination of the leaning and the gunplay. Sort of feels like Rainbow Six Siege, but it feels a little more fluid. It doesn't feel super static. It's very difficult to explain, but the maps and the gunplay and the movement in combination feels very, very good in this game. This is a good feeling game to play. This game is fun when you're putting in work.
What up?
It's fun when you're getting slapped across the face by a vehicle or someone else with a gun.
Our
You
units
definitely
are
gotta
taking
watch
hold of
Code.
objective Alpha 2.
Yeah. Man. And it's fun when you're doing something in between. A lot of the time, the game is fun.
Objective Charlie 2 is under attack. Ready at your command. For deployment. Objective Charlie 1 is...
Another part of the game that is lacking is the sound, though. The sound, it was a lot worse. So initially, when the first closed beta came out for the closed beta packs, and a lot of the community bought in, including me, the sound design was like really bad for some reason. It just completely sounded like potato noises. It was just not very good. And they did update it, and they made it a lot better, like a lot better. So it is a lot better now than it was when the closed beta initially launched. The beta that we all had to buy into. But it's still not that great. It's not terrible, but it's not AAA level. It's not, you know, it's not going to be up to par with something like Modern Warfare or Rainbow Six Siege. It's good enough, but it could be better, and that is something that the developers have stated that they want to work on. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was general accessibility, which I actually think is really good in this game. So these are the system requirements for World War III on its Steam page. So Ryzen 5 1600X, that's pretty much, both of those processors are pretty much entry level for gaming. We got basically the most common GPUs on the market, which is the RX 580, and probably the 6 gig 1060, 16 gigs of RAM, and, you know, 80 gigs of available space either on a hard drive or SSD. I would recommend an SSD. I have had some previously, a couple updates back. I haven't tested the game on a hard drive recently, but I would recommend an SSD because when I put the game on a hard drive, it didn't run. There were some micro stutters, and putting it on an SSD completely solved my problem. And it is free to play. So it's free to play. The system requirements, the recommended system requirements aren't super demanding. They are pretty much the most common components that most people's gaming PCs have. You know, you got the 6 gig 1060 or a RX 580 i5 that's not even like a super up-to-date i5, or a Ryzen 5 1600X, which is pretty much the entry-level Ryzen 5. So it's super accessible. There's pretty much no reason not to try out World War III. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. There's really no real good reason. If you're a fan of FPSs, this game kind of has something for everybody. If you're a Battlefield fan, it's got the squad play. It's got the larger scale. It's got the vehicles. You know, if you're into something like squad play in this game is very important. The commanders are very important. You get a lot of XP for following your commander's orders or being the commander and your squad mates following your orders. The game absolutely promotes teamwork, you know, to take down vehicles, to capture objectives. It has that. If you're a Call of Duty fan, it has very fluid movement and gunplay. And there is also a team deathmatch mode as well as tactical ops. So tactical ops is essentially conquest from Battlefield, and team deathmatch is team deathmatch. I don't play team deathmatch much, but you know, some people are into that. But this game pretty much has something for all the FPS fans, and that's why I think that there are so many people interested. I think that this game pretty much has something for everybody. So with all that being said, you may be thinking, well, what exactly does Rocky think about this? What do you think about this? What I think, I absolutely adore World War III, and I always have. I have been ecstatic the last couple of weeks. I love how much traction the game is getting. I love how many people are hopping in and enjoying it as much as I do, as much as Blue the Robot does, as much as J-Bo and the Man does. People like us have been sitting around waiting on this game for a super long time, and we've wanted everyone to see how much potential it has. We've wanted everyone to see how much work has been put in the game over the course of the last couple of years after the initial death of the game in like 2019. And everyone's starting to take notice, and everyone is starting to enjoy the game as much as we do. And for me, as well as a lot of the other content creators in the community, Crucial, Crazy Shoot, I think I Relax is his name. There's a bunch of them. I might even link a lot of them in the description, because if you want to see more gameplay, if you want to see more people having fun with the game, you can. But that's pretty much all I have for today. I absolutely think you guys should try the game out. It's free on Steam. The launcher is a bit iffy. The launcher is kind of bad. I probably should have talked about that earlier. But if you can get over the slight humps that the game has, it's an amazing game. Peace out.
The motherfucking world is a ghetto, full of magazines, full clips, and heavy metal when the smoke settles. I'm just looking for a big yellow. It's 6-inch stilettos, Dr. Dre. Hello. Percolating, keep 'em waiting while you sitting there hating. Your bitch is hyperventilating, hoping that we penetrating. You get snating, cause I never been to Satan. For hardcore administrating, gangbang affiliating.